How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
You guys keep up the good work, man. Podcasts are the way of the future.
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome in, everybody, to episode 266. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me this week, Adam, the Jock, Strozinski. What's up, cuz? What are we going to talk about this week? Holy cow.
You want to talk about how my Instagram got hacked? And I have no idea what I'm doing here. Oh, this is awful. Anyways, what do you think we're going to talk about? Lions totally laid a turd on Monday night.
Unbelievable. I mean, look. Here's the fun part about doing this podcast is that now, after doing this for 5 years, we research, we read, we go into kind of games kind of in the know of what could happen. I really thought the Lions were going to win. I figured they were going to play bad. And if you go back and listen to previous episodes when we were previewing the Lions, we said it's probably going to look awful the first probably half of the season. But something that we saw that you and I did not expect was the team to quit. And that's the part that everybody has talked about. And before we get into it regarding what the hell we saw on Monday night, who's to blame, is Matt Patricia over his head, the devastating part was when you get that new coach and you get the guy that comes in from that massive organization, from a nice place that has a history of winning, he's done some things, he has a history of success, key plays on defense, and then after the game, the storylines are, you know, how fat Matt Patricia is, how sloppy he is, how unorganized that team looked. Is he in over his head? Is this the worst performance that we've ever seen? Why do we deserve that? I mean, it's game one, and it was so bad. You just sit here. I can't even be angry. I'm just so, deflated watching that because that's not the storyline I wanted to see. But one thing, though, that has emerged that's interesting is there are people that are taking up for Matt Patricia and saying, and I wrote about it too, saying, look, if that team quit, in the end, 48 of the 53-man roster, I don't want anyway. I want them all gone. But here's the other problem. Every time you plug a hole, 5 more open because, obviously the thinking would be broom everybody out. But then the guys that you're supposed to bring back in, Bob Quinn's doing a shitty job of evaluating talent and replacing the team. I mean, the first 3 years of the rebuild have been terrible, and you walk away from that contest just really upset and frustrated because we kind of would have answers like, hey, be productive, pressure the quarterback, do these things, play well. But to not have effort, to fall apart when the temperature rises was really disheartening. And it's deflating because we waited, the fans have waited 9 months. You prep for this game. You should be prepared. It should be an easy win. And that's not what we saw on Monday Night Football. And I guess the stamp of how toxic and how terrible the Detroit Lions are, Monday Night Football just canceled the Lions. And I never in a million years would have thought that would happen. You just go to the end, get to the interviews, talk to Patricia, talk to the players after, a couple minutes after the game. But they said, look, 6 minutes left. Everyone's just chanting Jets. It's an embarrassment. So we're just going to go to the pregame of another game.
They went to a pregame. They didn't even go to a game. They went to a pregame.
When that happened, I was just like, wow, this is the most probably embarrassed I've felt watching a Lions game, or the most disheartened watching it, because the national media producer said, look, this is nothing, no more juice, cut it off. Cut it off! That's how devastatingly bad. What the hell did we see Monday, cuz? What the hell was that?
Do you feel like this is worse than the 0-16 season? I do. Going into this year, I had high expectations. Bob Quinn comes out and fires Jim Caldwell and says, I expect playoffs. We should be contending for playoff positions. We're going to go bring in my boy, Matt Patricia. Matty Patty, him and his pencil. We're going to go bring him in. Let's go get this guy. Let's go win us a championship. And it's basically what they've been trumpeting. Fast forward to Monday. Let's just skip over the awful preseason where we've sat there and we tried to keep ourselves in check and keep ourselves contained because it is the preseason. Let's just skip over all that hot garbage. And let's fast forward right into Monday. Monday rolls around, and the inactives list come out, and A'Shawn Robinson is inactive. You have a huge issue on your defensive line. You can't generate a pass rush. You can't stop running backs. But let's inactivate a guy who does a pretty decent job clogging up the middle and stuffing the run.
What a dummy.
Yes, exactly, Matt Patricia. You're an ass. Let us inactivate this guy. Why? Nobody knows yet. Nobody's really freaking for sure. But I'm really starting to scratch my head here and wonder what the hell is going on down in Allen Park. Because the Lions end up letting go of a guy who has 6.5 sacks last year.
What a dumbass.
Again, this is a defensive line that can't generate a pass rush and can't stop the run, but you're going to unleash a guy and let him go who had 6.5 sacks last year. You're going to inactivate A'Shawn Robinson, a guy who does a really good job clogging the middle and stopping the run game and putting some pressure on the quarterback. What's going on here? What is Matt Patricia doing? These are Matt Patricia moves. These are Bob Quinn moves. Like, Bob Quinn goes out and drafts these guys. They end up getting released a year later, which we can talk about at some point because this is really, really getting annoying right now. You go out and you invest all these high draft picks just to let guys go. Like, I feel like the Lions would have went out, traded for Khalil Mack because obviously they don't give a shit about draft picks. Just set those bitches on fire. It doesn't really matter. It's okay. We don't need them anyways. You go get Khalil Mack. Next thing you know, you're letting Khalil Mack go. You've seen what he did on Sunday Night Football. He helped put Aaron Rodgers in a body bag for the first half. Aaron Rodgers got some zombie juice and came out there with a bum leg and wheeled and dealed all over him.
Khalil Mack single-handedly took over that game defensively for the Bears. It was unreal to see, right? And everybody in Detroit said, wow, wouldn't that be awesome if he was here in Detroit? It didn't happen.
Dude, forces a fumble, returns an interception. I mean, the guy's amazing. Sacks all over the place, setting up other guys to get sacks. Unbelievable. But don't worry, Matt Patricia would have let him go. He would have released him. He said, we don't need this guy. Are you out of your mind, bro? What are you doing? What are you trying to do here? I don't understand, because your offense looks like garbage. There was the first play from scrimmage where Stephon Diggs ended up making a great interception because a rookie mistake. That's what that was. Let me throw across my body all the way across the field. Rookie mistakes. I said Stephon Diggs. I mean Quandre Diggs. Whatever. I'm all pumped up here. Like, Jesus Christ, man. That was the only decent thing that defense did. After that, you got Isaiah Crowell running a train on you. Running a train. For 62 yards, the dude's trucking down the field to the end zone. By the way, he's sitting on my bench in fantasy. Not cool at all. But still, what the hell is your defense doing? Is this Paul Pasqualoni's problem? I don't think so, because I think we all believe Paul Pasqualoni's just a figurehead. He's just the guy who's there. At one point, Matt Patricia's on the sideline and mouths, I quit. I quit. Hey, you know what, Matt? I think your team quit on you. I think your team has stopped caring. And that's a real tough thing to do game one of the season.
Let me ask you this. How angry then would you be at Matt Patricia? Because the way I look at it is, I don't believe any of this talent on the football field outside of, okay, let's say Kenny Galladay and maybe Darius Slay.
By the way.
Kenny Galladay, Darius Slay, and okay, if you want to keep the quarterback, Matthew Stafford. 3 guys. Everybody else is disposable in my eyes. And so I say, okay, if they don't buy in, how much anger then do you give Matt Patricia? Is his job to get everybody to buy in? Or does he go, this week, looks at the film with Bob Quinn in a room privately and goes, okay, this guy's a supporter, this guy's not a supporter, this guy's somebody that we can roll with. And then they're looking at it going, okay, they didn't buy into the system. How much blame do you give a Matt Patricia for not getting the guys to buy in? Because I would look at it like this. If I'm Matt Patricia, I'm sitting with Bob Quinn and going, okay, this first couple stretch of games, we're going to target who's on our side and who's not, and then we're going to start brooming people out.
But can you do that? Is that even smart to do that? Isn't that what you have the preseason for? Why would you risk regular season games for something as juvenile as that?
Because you're taking a 5-year view. Let's say okay, I got 4 to 5 years. This year's a waste year.
Bob Quinn came in and made this move with Matt Patricia, saying that the playoffs are expected. There was supposed to be no regression. You could stay the same, but you weren't allowed to take a step back. And right now, I feel like we're in the 0-16 season all over again, except the names and the faces have changed. We've got no more Matt Millen.
See, here's the thing, and you're a straightforward guy, and sometimes I think that might also put a detriment in how you think about things. Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn obviously have to say that because you have to sell tickets. But I think if you ask them honestly what their opinion was, because I'm starting to realize when you talk about PR, there are things you're supposed to say and there are things that you really mean. And I think what Bob Quinn came out when he really said, we expect this team to make the playoffs, that was just cover.
That's what Bob Quinn really said, though.
He said it, but I don't think he meant it. I don't think he meant it.
That's fine. You can't say that, though. You can't say that to your fan base. We expect to make the playoffs. You can't say that. No, you can say we expect to contend. You can say that.
How do you correctly sell tickets and hype up the fan base when you don't say playoffs is the goal? Because that's the goal.
It's a brand new head coach who's coming from a Super Bowl pedigree. That's how. Like, you didn't have to. He put his own foot in his mouth. He didn't have to say that because he says that. So now that's the bar that I'm holding him to. That should be the bar you're holding him to. That should be the bar that everybody is holding this team to, because the general manager and the head coach have both come out and have both said playoffs are the expectation.
See, I think
I got on Monday was nowhere near. The Jets are garbage.
Yes.
The Jets are freaking trash. Yes. You've got a rookie quarterback who picked you apart. A rookie quarterback. When Quincy Enunwa is getting targeted 10 freaking times, making 6 receptions and scoring touchdowns on you, that is trash. You are freaking garbage. Your defense sucks ass.
No doubt about it. But I would say the lesser of two evils when you talk to the public is to say, look, our goal is to, because he's got to try to sell firing a 9-7 coach. And when you sell it, you go, okay, our goal is to take the next step. That's the goal. But it's probably, if you ask him honestly what his honest opinion was, I think his honest opinion is what everybody's honest opinion is. That talent's not that good, but his job is to replace that talent and get guys in here that will buy into the system. But here's the thing.
You had a guy last year who got 6.5 sacks. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty solid. He's not great. He's not a world beater, but that's a good rotational guy.
Yeah.
How are you going to broom him out? Because he doesn't fit your system? Because he's not a New England Patriot retread? Do you realize every guy that they went out and got in the offseason is basically a New England retread?
Right.
That's all they got. What? I don't give a shit about the Patriot way. It hasn't worked anywhere but New England. What makes you think it's going to work here? These are guys who are aged veterans that Bill Belichick's like, you know what? We don't need you anymore. Go ahead. See, here's the door. So why do you want to go get those guys? Is it to build a culture in here? There was a culture here. Jim Caldwell helped build that culture. That is the one thing you and I both gave Jim Caldwell credit for. The dude couldn't count to 11, had no idea what numbers were. He couldn't even use his fingers or his toes to add. Honestly, the count on Sesame Street couldn't help that jabron out. But the one thing you and I gave him credit for was that he built a culture here. He helped broom out a lot of the bad seeds, brought in a lot of good, high-character guys. And now you want to turn around and you want to broom those guys out because you want some New England retreads? Get that mess out of here.
Okay, so you're pointing the finger directly as to what caused this, Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. That's where your anger's directed.
Yeah.
See, I'm halfway where I definitely think that obviously the message did not get through, but obviously the players did not execute. They did not do anything that warranted. Like garbage. They looked like garbage. They looked like they quit. It looked like they sent a message and said, look, we're not out here trying to run and work hard in the preseason. We don't believe in this guy's message. We're out here to send a message to ownership that this guy came in here acting like he was a boss when he's only a coordinator. And that's the tough part is I do think Matt Patricia deserves respect. He sounds the part, but there is a disconnect between what he's saying and what these players are ingesting, because that performance was not talent. That performance was not execution. That was a team that once the pressure got up there and got ratcheted up, I mean, you started the game off with a pick six. How do you not roll that into some serious momentum? How do you lay down in that third quarter? Because since when do you watch a football game and see a team roll off 30, 31 straight points on you and you have all those mistakes in a matter of like 5 minutes? That game spiraled so fast and so out of control, it led everyone to say, where's the leadership on this team? Where's Matt Patricia to slow everything down, take some time out, some gamesmanship, slow things down? The other aspect that's really concerning is that when you look at some of the players, why did they all start getting hurt? I mean, literally, when LeGarrette Blount goes down, Darius Slay goes down, Matthew Stafford gets dinged up, TJ Lang didn't look like anybody that, he looks like a shell of himself. What's going on here with how that game shook out? Because every facet of, the game that could go wrong went wrong. So it's something to seriously look at, is that Matt Patricia's message has not reached these guys. And if not, what will happen going forward? Because I think you and I both are recognizing, and a lot of fans are recognizing too, probably going to go out to San Fran and lose. Probably going to come home to a Sunday night crowd that's going to be really angry and agitated and ready to boo on Sunday Night Football versus the Patriots. And
first mistake, that place is going to erupt.
So
the first error.
So now what? What do you say is the solution to this? Because I have a solution. Because obviously I'm looking
You're
at
a
it. You're a
solutions-oriented guy, obviously.
I woke up this morning and I said, okay, I know Adam's going to be pissed, yelling. We're both going to be like,
I know, I
what
feel
the
bad.
fuck do we watch?
I just sat here and screamed
no,
in your
it's okay.
ears.
No, I love it. That's why we do this. We all said, what the fuck was this? That was not anything that was worthy of Detroit. Everybody nationally is laughing. The storylines coming out of it were really bad, and it was really terrible. But I have a solution. I think there's one thing that can be done, and I would advocate for two things if I'm Bob Quinn, okay? If you're going to realize, if the truth is that this team is not responding to Matt Patricia, you make one move. You extend Golden Tate. You give him a boatload of money, and you say, look, this is a guy that's worked hard. This is a guy that maybe is a strong leader in that locker room, would make Matthew Stafford really happy to have a guy that he knows can get yards after the catch, can be a cornerstone to teach younger cats. Sign Golden Tate, give him a bunch of money, and then the other thing I would do is I would cut TJ Lang. I would say, look, we're sending a message here that we're in charge, and if you're going to be here, we don't need you making videos. I don't need you making digital videos and promoting it on the Lions Twitter page. I don't need that. I want the guy gone. And so I think obviously I don't think they're going to cut TJ Lang, but if you want to extend the olive branch, if you want to kind of say, look, we're here for you guys, because I'm starting to think that some of the moves that were made and maybe not signing Golden Tate might also be part of the mix too, because that's a guy that's produced. That's a guy that has said, look, I've done a lot of things. I'm the leader in yards after the catch. I deserve some money. I deserve to be kind of taken care of. And if you do that, it might kind of reverberate in that locker room a little bit, because something's going on. Something has to be done. There has to be this olive branch, and it has to be done quick. So you know what? You come out, you negotiate that deal real quick, give them a boatload of money, signing bonus, you make them happy, and you go forward, because something has to take place to bridge the gap between what's going on with Matt Patricia and his message and the players fast, if you want to salvage this season. But I think that Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia are looking beyond 2018 and going, whatever happens, happens. We got this year. We're going to establish what we're going to try to establish, figure out who's a leader, who's somebody that we can roll with a system. But the other thing, cuz, that you said and brought up, Bob Quinn's talent evaluation is really suspect now. He's in the crosshairs because the guys that he has out there, I mean, Darius Slay goes down, and I'm tweeting like, okay, next man up, Tease Tabor. It's not Tease Tabor. What? I was shocked. I was like, wait a minute, that's not Tease Tabor. I tweeted out like, okay, next man up has to be Tease Tabor. Agnew? I was shocked that I definitely shocked at A'Shawn Robinson not being in the game. Obviously disappointed that Zettle's not on the roster. But yeah, obviously when you don't get impact from the guys you draft, it's a big concern, and it's really frustrating because everything that, any theory that you put out to solve this problem involves bringing in new guys that are better. But the biggest problem is with what we've seen is Bob Quinn's brought in guys that are worse.
Yeah. His most value draft pick that he's gotten so far since he's been here is Graham Glasgow. Graham Glasgow was a third-round pick that has played and has started for you the last season and a half, 2 seasons, right? Swanson went down. Next thing you know, Glasgow was in next man up, right? And he basically took that job away from Swanson, and he's been there ever since. That's been your best draft pick, that one guy. Everybody else that you've gotten has essentially been released, or we've got massive question marks. Jared Davis, huge question marks. Can't cover anybody.
TJ Watt's better already. It's established.
Exactly.
Make it plays.
Tease Tabor, not next man up, not the second guy behind Darius Slay. He would be the third guy. What? This is a high-round draft pick.
Could have Kareem Hunt.
Exactly. Kerryon Johnson. Where was Kerryon Johnson on Monday night? Where was he? He going into this game. Me and you both thought that he was going to take first reps, right? He was going to be
a ton of them.
Yes. And where was he? How many did he have? 7?
That's not enough.
What?
That's not enough.
What's going on here? And these are just high round draft picks, not counting all the guys that are later on that he took, who you're sitting here scratching your head like, where the heck is this guy at?
Everybody was befuddled, and it blew up our Twitter page. We've never had a response like we had on Monday night in terms of breaking down that game at Detroit Podcast. I thank everybody for finding us and involving us in your thoughts and your anger and things like that. Why didn't LeGarrette Blount get the ball in the red zone? I didn't understand that. That was so head-scratching that it made everybody go, wait a minute. Obviously, you're in the red zone. You brought in LeGarrette Blount to do the job in the red zone. He's a thumper. Why didn't you use him? Why did you give it to Theo Riddick? I didn't understand that.
I lied. Kerryon Johnson had 5 carries. 5 carries.
5 whole carries.
5 carries. Mind you, as a team, you only had 15 carries.
Well, the game got out of hand, so it became a pass fest. But it's just, it's not a conducive system. And so we asked, who's to blame for this performance? Is it Matt Patricia? Is he over his head? Is he not utilizing the talent properly? Is it Jim Bob Cooter, who continues to run similar plays that obviously the Jets were comfortable coming out after the game and saying, we knew what was going on, bros. We knew what was happening. We knew based on Matt Stafford's hand signals. We knew based upon our research of Matt Patricia, and we knew based upon our research of Jim Bob Cooter in the last couple seasons with the Lions. We knew what was up.
Chris Berg did a great job on The Athletic, or at The Athletic Detroit. Go check that out, theathletic.com/DSP. Save yourself 30%. Go save yourself some money. He did a really great job, though, showing different plays that Jim Bob Cooter has ran and how they've worked and how they're the exact same play the last couple years.
The exact
same play. Like, Jim Bob Cooter, you've got to, like, he has no idea what he's doing with the run game, right? Can we all agree on this? He has no clue. He came out last year, said he's learning how to do it. Well, obviously, he hasn't learned jack squat.
Exactly.
He has no clue what he's doing with the run game. On top of that, he runs the same exact plays. He's not creative at all, does not do a good job disguising his plays. He is a bad offensive coordinator. Why they retained him? Because it makes Matt Stafford feel comfortable about himself, makes Matt Stafford feel real good. I don't need you to feel real good, Matt Stafford. I need you to not go out there and throw 4 interceptions to the Jets. To the Jets!
Yeah, to the Jets. 4 interceptions. What was up with Stafford? What happened with him? Was it because of the offensive line giving him no time? Was he just so confused by the Jets defense? Todd Bowles and that scheme there. What happened? What happened with Matt Stafford?
I wish I knew, man.
That was terrible.
I really wish I knew. Honestly, it's a lot of it I think has to do with Jim Bob Cooter, but there were certain plays where Matt Stafford needs to recognize what's going on, and he just failed to read the defense. Just failed to read the defense. This entire team seemed like it was ill-prepared, unmotivated, and checked out. They sat there, they had that huge play to start the game, right? Right off rip. Score, pick 6, we're going. After that, they all mailed it in. Everybody mailed it in after that. This team looked all out of sorts. The coaching staff looked all out of sorts. This might be the worst loss I've seen a Detroit Lions team take. And the reason I say that is I have no hope. Like, I'm not, there was nothing where you could glom onto it and say, okay, well, he looks really productive. He's going to be a good player in a year or two. Or, hey, this is easily correctable. We can fix this. Next week, it's going to be better. No, there was none of that.
There's a fear it could get worse.
Yeah, your head coach, head coach looks so in over his head and so out of sorts. And your offensive and defensive coordinators just seemed shell-shocked. Like, everybody on the Detroit Lions sideline, they couldn't figure out what was going on. Like, they thought this was a bad dream. And the Jets just kept running up the score and running up the score and running up the score. And there was no way to stop them. It was like putting Madden on and playing on All-Pro, and you really have the talent level of a rookie. Like, you just can't stop the computer. All they're doing is housing you. Every time you drop back, you're either getting sacked, fumbled, or you're throwing an interception. That's exactly what happened to the Detroit Lions. The exact same thing that happened to the Detroit Lions. This team looks so out of order right now, and you have nothing that you can tell me was a silver lining in it. There was nothing. The best player on the field for the Detroit Lions was probably Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay blowing up a defensive back was probably the highlight for Detroit. That was it. There was nothing else that you can tell me was good about this game. Your quarterback looked atrocious. Your backup quarterback was even worse. Go get me Colin Kaepernick. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you feel about the national anthem. I don't care if this guy kneels on both knees. Go get me a quarterback who can do something. I don't care what your political views are. They don't matter. They don't matter. This is sports. Go win me games. Your defense was a mess. You got shredded like a hot knife through butter. You couldn't stop Isaiah freaking Crowell. I love the dude in fantasy. In real life, he's not that good of a running back. They had Quincy Enunwa and Robbie Anderson running a train on you. Choo choo. Do you hear that? That's what's plowing into your behind right now. You can't stop it. You can't even hope to contain it because it's just beating you down. It's beating you down like gay sex inside of a gay porno. That's what's going on right here. Good luck. Your special teams, honestly, Matt Prater missing field goals. Oh. When was the last time Matt Prater missed a field goal? Right? Like, I see Matt Prater trot out into the field. Da, 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 da. Matt Prater's happy. I'm happy. I'm like, all right, cool. This is going to be good. Matt Prater's going to put it through the uprights. No big deal. We'll collect 3 and we'll keep it moving, right? No, Matt Prater goes out there and shanks it. Da, 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 da. Later in the game, Matt Prater goes out there. You know what? Shanks it again. Matt Prater missed 2 kicks.
The first one, obviously, I think was...
Even your kicker was on tilt, bro.
No, the first snap was a little bit off and the timing got off. But yeah, one of the kicks, obviously, he missed.
Look,
and it was
your kicker was on tilt, dude.
He was on tilt.
Your kicker was on tilt.
Nobody showed up to play.
When Matt Prater's kicking 57-yarders, I don't want to hear about a weird snap. Like, you got it down, right? It's cool. Your kicker was on tilt. That entire team was a mess.
And guess what? National audience. Everybody sits down after work. They, in the Midwest, East Coast, 7 o'clock kickoff. Everybody sits down for Monday Night Football. They're excited to see the debut of Sam Darnold. Obviously, the ratings were really bad, obviously, because the game got out of hand and people were maybe upset regarding, the announced duos and things like that, the total package. But in the end, when everybody nationally took a look at the Detroit Lions, it became a joke. Now Stephen A. Smith has finally asked the question that you and I asked, is that why isn't anybody criticizing Matt Stafford? Why is this guy worth $27 million? And he said, why? Because Kirk Cousins is worth 28. He started to ask the question regarding Matt Stafford because of the fact that the performance was awful. He has to step it up. He took the blame for it, and he made bad throws, bad reads. When Lomas Brown is criticizing you, you're playing a bad game. Lomas Brown was even hypercritical of the Lions because of the fact that they didn't make plays and they didn't show up. They didn't step up and they didn't respond to adversity.
And the only thing Lomas is ever critical of is a donut or a croissant. Yeah. That's the only thing. That dude is like the biggest Lions supporter ever.
Side note, the announce crew on television was awful. I couldn't believe it.
That's
what you put
horrible, dude.
I didn't like it, so I went to radio, and that wasn't really all that great because they were just the radio was okay. It was better than the television.
It was on AM.
No, because, Lomas, like I said, is just...
Lomas is not good.
Yeah, it's not easy on the ears to pay attention to, but at the same time, it was just so bad that, when guys are trying to be positive and trying to say, okay, this is a key third down play, and then the Jets, convert on third down, or they get a touchdown, or they get a kick return, and they're like, oh my God. Obviously when a former Lion gets the ball and he takes it to the house, and then you look at your stats, and your guys don't even get 50 yards of returns, you're like... Of course, a guy comes back to the house to handle his business, and we don't get no productivity. Of course, it has to be the case.
As two guys who speak into microphones quite regularly, do you find it sometimes hard when you listen to Lomas to not correct his English? But there's sometimes he says stuff, and I'm just like, what are you talking about?
No.
That's not even a real word.
No, I'm not trying to correct it. I'm trying to just...
Put a sentence together, bro.
No, I'm just trying to hear what he's saying and to figure out what words are coming out of his mouth, because just to hear it takes work. That's the hard part, is that you got to enunciate and you got to be clear.
If we can get Dan Miller to handle 87% of the broadcast... That'd be awesome.
That's correct.
Well, it happened. So it was really bad. Do you see this getting worse? Like, do you now take it from a 7-9 season to a 3-13?
I think we were super
exposed.
No. What's the word I'm looking for here? I think we really were trying to be proactive here, and we were trying to be
positive.
We wanted them to be good.
Yeah.
We really did.
Hopeful and positive.
Going into this game, I was like, Matt Patricia's going to sit there and he's going to just open up the playbook. He's going to scheme up this awesome defense, and they're going to go out there and show us something. Oh, they showed us something, all right.
It was bad.
They showed us something. It didn't look like anybody was involved. It looked like everybody was out of sorts. It was a mess. Yeah, this could get way worse, dude. This might be one of those 3-13 seasons. We said, 7-9? This could be a 5-11, a 3-13
5
type
to 6.
season.
It could go down. I think that some of the teams in the league you can beat and handle, and even if you play bad, you can still do some things when you have Matt Stafford.
Does this team get better as the season goes on, do you think?
It has
because
to. It has
I'm not 100% sold.
It has to get better because of the fact that Stafford can't play that bad. The offense can't play that bad. That should get better. The defense should show up, because here's the thing. Sometimes when you play a game that bad, you get embarrassed too, where you go, oh, we sent a message, but at the same time, we're probably going to never play football again, ever. Some of those guys were like, whoa, if we play that bad, then we're not going to have jobs ever again to play football. And again, you get embarrassed by putting tape like that across the league. So I do think they're going to play better. Is it still going to be enough? Do you have enough talent to go 10-6? Probably not, but I think that they're going to step up, and you're going to see a good, at least first quarter, second quarter. I'm crossing my fingers. They're going to step up psychologically, because when it swings one way, everybody's going to hunker down and pay close attention. I do think Stafford's going to take it personally, that everyone's going to think that Garoppolo's going to, outdo him and outshine him. I think he'll play well, and I think the Lions are going to come out to a lead, but I do think late, San Francisco is going to be hungry enough and talented enough to get the job done late. This game will be more resemblant of an NFL game, where I think it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 31-24. San Francisco with the win. I think the Lions are going to play better. They're not going to look this terrible. This is one of those games where you go, okay, once it went south, the pressure might have got to them. Early on, things might have, not gone as well as people would have thought. But going forward, it can't stay this bad. There is no way this is an 0-16 team. You got Matt Patricia. You got a scheme that should be in place. And when you got Matthew Stafford, if it doesn't go well on offense, if it doesn't get better on the run game, you probably will look to see Jim Bob Cooter take the fall. If it goes 0-4, 0-5, you will see a change, and Jim Bob Cooter will be the guy that takes the heat, because he's not a Patricia guy. So you have one more chip to play, which is, look, I don't believe in what the hell you're doing. I know what offense looks like, and if you can't figure out running game with the talent that we're bringing you, bye-bye Jim Bob Cooter. And I think probably the prediction that most people would make that probably will come true, Jim Bob Cooter won't be on this team by the time the season ends.
Yeah, I'm going to agree.
See you, Jim Bob. It was nice knowing you. Good relationship with Matt Stafford, but sayonara. You're not going to be here much longer.
Yeah, I think Jim Bob Cooter will be fired before the end of the season. I just don't see this season going the way we had hoped, the way we had predicted. There's just, I don't know if it's just a talent deficit, or if they're just not understanding what Matt Patricia is trying to instill. It really feels like Matt Patricia came in and he's like, this is what we're doing. Whether it fits you guys or not, this is what we're doing.
Right.
And he didn't really build anything around the talent that he has. He's trying to implement a scheme, and he's doing it the hard way. This is going to be a very bad season for the Detroit Lions, so just get prepared, buckle in. It's going to be a bumpy road. Jim Bob Cooter at some point is going to get fired. They have guys on this staff that can take over as offensive coordinator. Jim Bob Cooter is unoriginal. He doesn't know how to run a run game. He's gone.
Okay, here's Doc's bottom line regarding what I saw Monday night and what's going to happen going forward. Okay, my take on those that say Jim Caldwell should still be the coach are obviously reacting to that one game that they saw, because, obviously there were times when the Lions did not play well under Jim Caldwell, but they won. They, messed it all up in the first three quarters, but when it was crunch time, that team seemed to play hard for Jim Caldwell. But remember, Bob Quinn, and the reason why they did that was they said, look, we might be willing to sacrifice the first couple games of the 2018 season, but remember, 16 games is a long time. We've just played one, and it only counts for one. Thank goodness. We're 0-1. If the Lions progress, if the system finally locks in, remember what we said. We said, bend, don't break. There are going to be numbers that look atrocious early on. We said that. Those that say keep Jim Caldwell don't want to see performances like that. I can weather it. I mean, I'm disappointed. I'm understanding that was atrocious. But the hope and belief would be that this team gets better, with the hope that when you advance the cause, when you bring in a guy like Matt Patricia, you don't bring him in to go 9-7. You bring him in to establish a regime and establish a program like New England. Does it happen? That's the part that everyone's going to debate going forward based on what we saw. I still believe that, you know what, when you ask me what side do I lean on more, I'm more Team Quinn and Team Patricia. Matt Patricia has seen what winning looks like. He's seen what his mentor has done. He understands a concept. Will he be able to go out there and execute it? Yes, I do believe that the roster that is on 2018 is not going to be the same in 2020. It won't be. There will be a lot of new guys that I do think he'll bring in, and he'll be afforded the right to bring in, and it'll look better. If you want to make a move to kind of bridge the gap this year, sign Golden Tate. But those that say Jim Caldwell should still be here, stop talking like that. The guy couldn't call a game. He made a lot of mistakes that made the games harder for the Detroit Lions organization. And when it came time to make the moves and play well in a time where you had to, he came up short year after year. He wasn't just broomed out. Bob Quinn gave him a fair chance, and he came to the assessment. And the realistic assessment was, this guy is a playoff coach. He'll get us to the playoffs, but no further. And that's the grade. That's the realistic approach. Bob Quinn's right. Matt Patricia's brought here not only to march us into the postseason, but march us into the Super Bowl and maybe perform well. And so that's where I'm at with it. It's only one game. It's disappointing, and definitely everybody has a right to be upset at what you saw. But remember, it's just one game, and Patricia is better than Jim Caldwell. I know it. He's just better. It's just now figuring out how to reach these players if he wants to at all, unless he decides, you know what, I'm going to get a whole new crew.
I'm on the complete opposite end of this. I see the Honolulu blue and silver boat going down. I'm in the little dinghy, and I've got the rope going, and I'm trying to lower the lifeboat down into the water. So anybody who wants to jump on my ship, let's go. I got plenty of room for you. We're not going to sink. I can see the Titanic coming, and I'm not going to end up like Jack and Rose. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, then the final question I would have to ask you is, it's 2-14, 1-15, and it's bad. 2 or 3 more performances nationally like this, and people are starting to hyper-focus. Is there a chance, any chance at all, you could see Patricia getting blown out year one?
No.
Never happens.
No.
So then you take the long-term view. It's his boy, right?
Yes.
So he gets this year.
They're both here till 2022.
They're taken.
Unless Martha just goes banana boats. Martha goes in there with a spear and starts just chucking it and killing dudes like it's the African safari. That is the only way I see this ending for those two.
Okay.
There's no way in hell that they're gone by before 2022.
0-2 or 1-1?
0-2.
0-2. I think we're both in that same boat. Oh, please, Lions, prove us wrong. Do something, anything at all, to right this ship, because this is going to be a terrible week nationally. Rome, Colin Cowherd, locally, podcasts, everybody is talking about Matt Patricia and talking about the Lions in terms that we don't want to talk about, especially year one, game one. Woo! That felt good, though. It felt good to talk with you about it.
I'm sorry I yelled a lot.
No, that's what? I would have been disappointed if you didn't yell. That's what we're supposed to do. We're still passionate about the team. It's deflating. I'm not angry about it because we kind of noticed it and we probably thought it was going to happen, but we just said, in my opinion, that was bad, but I didn't think it would be that bad. Oh, my God. That was bad.
Really bad.
Really bad. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about a little bit more positive things if you're a Wolverine supporter. More disappointment for me watching the Spartans, but there was a reprieve, and I'll tell you why, for me, talking about Michigan State. Stay with us. You're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc and Jock here for our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I decided to start this project, we were looking for a great place to host all of our recorded audio. And thank goodness we found Podomatic. And since September of 2013, we've recorded over 1,000 podcasts. We've taken this project from the basement of my house to an office studio here in Sterling Heights with lights, great gear, microphones that work each and every week. We pump out great content, and now we're credentialed media. Our outlet is now able to basically apply to a lot of sporting events, and the replies back are favorable. Why? Because we have great interviews. We got a great website. We have the ability to take all of our recorded content and put it up to Podomatic.com. So if you're looking to start a brand new project, Doc and Jock, Vito, Shay, Steve, all the hosts here that record podcasts, we're going to recommend you put your podcast in one place alone, Podomatic.com. Because with the ability to watch NFL football, and college football, I was loving life these last couple weeks, man. Getting into football, college football, being able to go to the big house to cover Michigan Wolverine game was unbelievable, unreal, and I was thankful in that. Being a new media member, there are people that just gravitate toward me, sit by me, and start chirping with me and talking and kind of show me the way a little bit. And I've been asking good questions, and I'm thankful to those that have helped me out along the way, seeing me there for the first time. It was great to watch a blowout, to be honest with you. I'm not taking, obviously, like most people, a lot away from Michigan playing Western Michigan. You said it. Look, it's Western Michigan. We know it's going to be a blowout, but seeing it's nice. Nice to see, wide receivers running away from defenders. It's nice seeing Karan Higdon having some success on his birthday, some holes opening up. It's nice to see Shea Patterson have time to throw the football. And so that game for me quieted the masses, and that's what the Lions got to do in San Francisco. Because of the fact that they just blew out a team, they didn't keep it close. Obviously, the first couple drives, people were a little bit antsy with what was going on because one of the sequences was, I think they ran a play, they called a timeout, and then they got a penalty after a timeout. I think it was a delay of game. So people were a little bit antsy in the crowd to start that game, and it was kind of the thing that I would say was surprising to me was the crowd seemed a little subdued. It was a blowout. It wasn't as ruckus. And by the time the third and fourth quarter got into it in the later half of the game, most of the students kind of left and they kind of dissipated because it was a blowout and Western didn't provide really any entertaining value. But for Michigan, they needed this kind of performance to silence the masses, to finally end the narrative of, oh, no quarterback has thrown a touchdown pass to a wide receiver. They wanted to play well on the offensive line, do some things on the defense, and get some experience for some guys to play. And so that's what it was. It was a great experience all the way around in the Big House press box. Really professional, good food, and the media members there were great. Had a chance to catch up with Sky and kind of chirp at him a little bit, going, this is what Row the Boat happened. This is what Row the Boat went to? I'm like, oh my God, when you go from a coach that was getting you to big-time bowls to Leicester, I was like, come on, man, how disappointing is that? He was, chuckling up a little bit, and we shared some knowledge and things like that, and it was good. I enjoyed my time there. Ann Arbor seems fun and things like that, but for Michigan, you can't really take away a lot of stock from that contest. But Shea Patterson can throw the ball, and that's good to see him do that and execute. And it was more the narrative coming out of that game was, oh, how great it was for Shea Patterson the first time he comes out in the vaunted Big House to slap the banner and be there and, kind of erase the tainted memory of Notre Dame. And fine, you guys are 1-1. You move up a little bit in the rankings. Good for you. You're going to do it again versus SMU, but I get to sit here and get all excited. I'll be there, Michigan, Wisconsin, to critically take a look at what Michigan does versus a real team, and that will be awesome because it's going to be a thumping kind of contest, and it could be a really good game. Hoping it's later in the evening so I can get out there at a reasonable time. Being Saturday morning, it was not fun to get up that early, but all in all, good experience for Michigan. A lot of good things to take away, especially having the offense do some things.
Yeah, it was nice to see them actually be able to perform. Don't take anything out of it, though. Don't read anything into it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can really be gleamed or glommed on from. Western is just a low-level MAC school. And honestly, I don't mean that to be disrespectful. It's just what they are. It's what it is.
Yeah, and a MAC school has only beaten Michigan once, and that was Toledo.
Right.
That was it.
And so if you're a Michigan fan, good, be excited. They won. They're 1-1. Don't take too much out of it. There's nothing that you can really pinpoint and be like, oh, this means we're going to do this against Wisconsin, against Michigan State, against Ohio State. None of that. It's not going to translate.
And also, too, in surveying the landscape regarding coverage, I have an assessment to make, and I kind of like what we do in that we're not hyper-focused on one sport. I mean, you got people that are dedicated to a niche type thing where you're just covering college football, college athletics, or you're just covering Michigan. And I can understand why you would do that because it's a passion of yours and you think you can just get a certain audience. And definitely the brand of Michigan is definitely unbelievable and you can definitely garner support and start a business doing it that way. But I like what we do a little bit better in that we're more broad and that we can take a critical look at Michigan from two different perspectives, and we can look at the positives and the negatives, and we're not just going like, here's Nico Collins, he's the baddest wide receiver on the planet, and he's this and that, he can do this, and he's going to replace Tariq Black and make the offense purr versus the big-time opponents, where we take a little bit more broad look at everything, and I think it's much better for us, and we still have the ability to do the access, but I don't think I would have liked it if we called ourselves Michigan Wolverine Fan Nation or anything like that, or if we called ourselves Pride of Detroit. I wouldn't like that. I like what we do in terms of just taking a look at what we like, but oh my God, bro. If you thought that the hype train was going to stop with Michigan, it's not, because there are sites dedicated to just covering the team. And what that means is they're dedicated to like going, here's Nico Collins. What are all his strengths? Now, how much emphasis do you give on his weaknesses? A blurb, but let's just go and do a hype video or a piece on him and say he does this well, and that's fine. But all in all, I definitely want to take a more well-rounded view of everybody and go, okay, tell me 8 things that are good about Nico Collins, but also find 8 things or tell me 8 things that are things he can improve upon. You don't have to say he sucks at this, but say, look, he can get better at cuts. He can get better at breakaway speed. He can get better at big moments. Do a little bit more of that is my critical look at analysis, because holy cow, sitting in that room with the questions, it was all positive framed, all like, how'd you feel about this and how'd you feel about that and tell me about this. A lot of talk abouts, which is, obviously some media members say don't do, but a lot of things that I didn't like.
Did it sound like this? Let me spit on it now.
Yeah.
Is that what it sounded like?
It was like sitting there, it was just basically, Jim, what was it like seeing Shea run out and hit the banner? What was that? I was like, what do you mean it was like? And he was like, yeah.
Jim was like, I was a wreck the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, what?
My question,
what the hell are we talking about?
I feel like my question was medium in that I asked Karan Higdon how he felt the mindset was of the team after the loss. And he said it was appropriate and things like that. If I was going to ask a more critical question, I thought about it too. And I was like, that's a lot of words to put out early on to Jim Harbaugh. I was going to ask him, and I wanted to do it, but there were a lot. It was like the players you have more time with, and there's not as many requests. Harbaugh's like, bam, 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 bam. It's like 8, 9 questions all in a row. Everyone's got their hand up.
Were you going to go, Jim, how big is your boner when you get to see Shea Patterson throw touchdowns?
No. It was going to be more psychological, and I don't know. I didn't kind of know what would be the value of the response. I was going to ask, in years past, we've seen, like in All In, we've seen how you've responded to losses, and it's taken you days. You haven't even come out of your room, and you look like you were definitely really affected negatively by a loss. How did you handle this loss versus Notre Dame? And do you feel like going forward, you got to change that if you're going to be the coach of Michigan for the next 20 years? Do you feel like you got to handle losses better? Because when you saw the All In, he looked like a wreck after losses. And I just wanted to ask, this go around, how long did it take, because you knew you had Western around the corner? But how do you ask that in like 4 seconds?
Yeah.
So
maybe like that.
It could have been like, do you feel like you need to handle losses better, or how do you assess how you handled this loss? It's short like that.
I think that would have been good if you were covering the Notre Dame game. But for the Western game, it would have had to have been phrased something along the lines of, what was so different about rebounding from last week's loss to this week? Like, how did you transition from what happened last week to
prepping for Notre Dame?
Yeah,
or prepping for Western Michigan. It was interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But going forward, it was a lot of good signs. But what has to happen now with Michigan is just keep getting better, and the offensive line has to establish consistency and making less mistakes in these big games. But the Big Ten looks good, looks solid. You saw some things though, in terms of some teams getting upset. Purdue losing to Eastern was not a good thing. Nebraska had some issues. So the top-end talent, Wisconsin, Ohio State, definitely looked the part. But it'll be interesting when these teams get better and clash, what it will bring. Now, to look at the other side of the coin, I fell asleep at 13-3 lead. So I made it because that was Saturday, and so I went to the big house early, left at like 6:30 in the morning, and then I got home and prepped, took a little bit of a rest, and then 10:45 hit, and I got into the game. And it was disappointing to watch Michigan State fail and do the things that we talk about they do when they get into these moments. A game like that, Michigan State's better than Arizona State. Arizona State had one supremely talented individual, but across the board, it's basically Michigan State had 4 stars, and it was basically a 4-star game versus a 3-star team. And Arizona State had this one superstar, but you had to battle the elements. And so for 3 quarters, they did. Michigan State was okay. It was 13-3. But then in the fourth quarter, everything fell apart. And what happens is when you don't capitalize on opportunities in the red zone, when you make mistakes, then it comes back to haunt you. And most people said, the interception in the red zone, the field goal attempts, that's going to probably come back to haunt you because you needed 7. You needed touchdowns. And again, that's why everyone's mad. But again, how mad can I realistically get when everyone knows Dave Warner is inept at what he's doing, calling plays? We know it. And what? I'm surprised it happened again where he just, has a premier running back in LJ Scott and the offensive line can't block for him and get him any yards. You don't even get 150 yards rushing. You don't even break 100 yards. And you keep doing it. You keep rushing. And it went to script like we said last week. Michigan State has a system, and if they realize that the system is not working, they keep doing it, which is the biggest thing that's frustrating to me as a Michigan State supporter is the abject failure, the refusal to look at a realistic situation and go, we're not running the football today. It ain't working. We're getting 2 yards a carry. Let's keep doing it. That's what they do. They keep doing it. They just refuse to adapt. And that's what's frustrating, again, being a Lion supporter, is they refuse to adapt. And that's the tough part, is that when your team is stubborn, like Michigan State with that offense, it's frustrating. And this is what happens. You get a loss. Is the season over? No. Do I expect them to lose a couple more games? Yeah. So again, 9-3 is what I have for both teams, Michigan and Michigan State. It's just frustrating because it's more of the same. I'm not seeing progression. And so as a Michigan State supporter, do I want to sit here and tread water with Michigan State as a program? No, I want to see advancement. But you know what? The risk is if you blow out a Mark D'Antonio and his entire staff, that you go backwards, similar to Western Michigan. So you can't do it because of the fact that Mark D'Antonio is around a 9-10 win a season, kind of coach. And so the problem is, though, I want more. I'm sitting here wanting more.
Want more.
I want more, but they're not going to do it. And we're just left sitting here reacting to another loss on the road versus Arizona State, a loss in which I think that could have been avoided.
So do you think Dave Warner is the issue there with that team? Because when I watch that game, I'm just blown away at how bad that offensive line is. That's 2 weeks in a row that offensive line has just been pushed around and bullied. There was a point there where Tyler Higsby was going to snap the ball, right? And just gets blown up by the nose tackle for Arizona State. Like, gets hit so hard, he ends up 3 feet in the backfield, essentially on top of Brian Lewerke. And I'm just like, you can't have that. You can't have that. I mean, on top of all of that, Arizona State's in what, the Pac-12, right? So they don't play defense out there. They really don't. It's a very offensive conference. Very little time is spent defensively. Watch their games. Go ahead, watch their games and tell me I'm wrong. Most of their games they're usually shootouts. Very little is spent on defense. Their defense manhandled MSU's offensive line. That's 2 weeks in a row by teams that are supposed to be less than the caliber that you're going up against in the Big Ten. What does that spell for the Big Ten going forward for Michigan State's season? I think Michigan State's in some real trouble here. They're going to have to figure something out. I liked your prediction of what'd you say, 9-3? I liked it. But at this point, it's looking really dire. You might sit there and do well against Nebraska, might do well against maybe Northwestern because they're struggling. It's a down year for them. Might do well against Indiana. But when you play the big boys, when you play a team like Michigan, I think Michigan's got MSU's number this year. And that's not because Michigan's offense is great. I just think their defense is that good, and Michigan State's offensive line is that bad. You play Ohio State, it's going to be tough. Does MSU play Wisconsin this year? I don't have the schedule up in front of me. But if they do, good luck. Good luck. I mean, you can beat a Rutgers, cool. But it's the offensive line is in dire straits right now. And for Lewerke to be as productive as he needs to be, you got to buy him a little bit of time. You got to let the plays develop down the field. You got Felton Davis, who's an incredible wide receiver. Incredible. That's a weapon for this Michigan State offense, and you can't use it because your offensive line is sitting in Lewerke's lap.
The biggest thing that frustrates me is that we've pinpointed an issue. Red zone efficiency, predictability on offense, refusal to adapt. Okay? So you have a game in which LJ Scott's not performing. The offensive line's struggling a little bit. It's not giving Lewerke enough time. He's not playing as good a game. Why not be a little bit more creative? Why not utilize the likes of a White, Felton Davis? I mean, the big play went to the Arizona State wide receiver, the talented individual. Why not utilize Felton Davis a lot more, the tight ends? Why not just totally, a little bit of razzle-dazzle? I know, it's just the refusal to adapt in-game is tough, and when you keep doing things and when you come out and say, well, we got to execute better, well, sometimes you got to scheme better. Sometimes you have to, in-game, realize, oh boy, the Arizona State defensive line is winning some battles. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's roll the Lewerke out. Let's have a play where L.J. Scott throws the ball back to Brian Lewerke or a flea flicker or something to open up the defense, or utilize a tight end, or do something a little bit different, and maybe stop calling these same plays in the red zone that don't work. It's just unacceptable that you can't close the deal in a game where you're probably the better team. That's not a loss that I'm proud of. It's not a loss where you go, man, it just opened up holes and opened up criticism for Michigan State in terms of that offensive line, coaching. Brian Lewerke didn't really show up as well as we would have liked, and it's disappointing because last year when L.J. Scott wasn't the best, you also had a kind of a different kind of back in Madre London. He's gone. So you sacrificed Madre London for L.J. Scott when you could have maybe made assurances and done some things. So it's unfortunate that that again, more of the same. It's just deflating. It's one of those things where you just want more. You just kind of wanted the first loss not to beat Arizona State.
I'm looking at their schedule, and they don't play Wisconsin. Thank God for you. But this looks like it's going to be an 8-4 season, which doesn't sound real bad. But at this point, Penn State is no great team, right? I think Michigan State's going to lose to Penn State. I think they're going to lose to Michigan. I think they're going to lose to Ohio State. Those are your other three losses that you're going to end up suffering. But honestly, it's a really easy schedule overall. I mean, Indiana, Northwestern, who's having a down year, Purdue, who's absolute garbage. They got beat by Eastern. Maryland, I don't think is any good. Rutgers is absolutely atrocious. And Nebraska, who's going through their own little struggles here. So no great shakes here for Michigan State with this schedule. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a rough year for you guys, unless you can get that offensive line figured out. Let me ask you this. Do you feel better about Michigan State's 1-1 record or Michigan's 1-1 record?
Same, exact same. You look at it from the perspective of they're both 1-1 teams. They're both teams looking to get better. They both have holes that they got to improve. And I look at it and I say, I can't wait for October 20th because I think it's going to be one of the epic clashes. I think Shea Patterson, Brian Lewerke, if it lives up to the hype and they break through those defenses and they get going and those offenses can get purring a little bit, that game could be in a neighborhood of 35-31, back and forth. It could be an entertaining game, or it could be a defensive slobber knocker in the neighborhood of like 15-12, but a lot of key plays. I think that game, as we inch towards that game, you got to pay attention to what Michigan looks like after October 13th. I'll be there so I can give you a great insight regarding what Michigan looks like, any key injuries, what's going to happen, because you don't just play Wisconsin and show up the next week the same team. Wisconsin's going to hurt you. Wisconsin's going to put you to the test. And so I like the fact now that Michigan State has a bye this week because we are also dealing with some injuries.
Yeah, did it come at the right time?
Perfect time. I think that it's the right time for that bye week to come for Michigan State because you need Josiah Scott. You need some of the guys to get back. Unfortunately, the punter's injured 6 to 8 weeks. We'll see what happens as a result of that injury. You also need to regroup from a loss and get going and get rolling. That's what's going to happen. So October 20th, circle it. It's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a 7-point game. And both teams, I think, kind of mirror each other in a lot of ways. It's going to be a very, very quality contest. And Michigan's not as bad as they looked versus Notre Dame, and Michigan State's not as bad as they looked versus Arizona State. They're going to get better. They're well coached. And I think what we want to pinpoint here is that the programs are decent. 9-3 programs are okay. But you and I, we strive for the best. We don't strive to be like any other podcast. We want to be the best podcast. We want to do more than anybody else. So the reason why we're more critical is that we want this team, we want State and Michigan to be like Alabama. If you're not like Alabama, then we feel like it's a failure. And that's the attitude you have to have. If you're not Alabama, if you're not Ohio State, then what are you doing? 9-3, some people will say, and I can respect you if you say that. If you tweet us at Detroit Podcast, or you tweet Adam and you say, if you tweet Adam at Adam R STROZ and you say, hey, 9-3, hey, it could be worse. You could be Western, you could be Central. Fine, I can respect that. But for me, I want 10-1. I want 10-2. I want one-loss seasons, undefeated seasons. I want to see teams that kind of dominate. I want to see a dominating season more than just once every decade. And so that's all I'm striving for, is to see, hey, can Mark D'Antonio get you to Alabama? Probably not, but what's the fair judgment of him? I'm just disappointed in that I don't see national title from Mark D'Antonio. I see maybe another Big Ten run, maybe in the playoff, but maybe a playoff loss, but I don't see the ultimate goal. But with Michigan, you could start to see if it rolls with Shea Patterson this year and next. You get a Tariq Black next year and it rolls and that defense continues, and you're starting to see people coming in from Florida and other places kind of coming back to Michigan. You could see a little bit through the clouds national title trajectory.
Don't worry, Tariq Black will break a third foot.
And Shea Patterson will throw 5 interceptions in the playoff.
Right, so don't worry about it.
All right, before we talk about the news of the week that I think excited everybody and kind of helped ease the pain of the Lions, the free and easy way to support us, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We've grown to great success because of your guys' support. You go visit that website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can check out when each show airs. You can interact with the hosts. You can take care of all your online shopping needs. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. We couldn't keep the lights on, the microphones hot if you didn't support us. And the download numbers are up. People are liking the variety of shows, and it's greatly appreciated. I wouldn't do this, 4 days a week if there wasn't this level of support. And when there's a great game on and you're passionate and you have memes, GIFs, you have jokes. Look, earlier today, I just sent Adam just nondescriptly, hey, Matt Patricia in a meme saying, look, screw this, let's start cheating. And the response has been funny. People are like, yes, and they like it. They get our brand of humor, and I like it. I respect that people have said, okay, we know what you are. We know that you bring a little bit of humor and sarcasm to the table, and you support us. So thank you so much. One of the easy ways and free is DetroitSportsPodcast.com. So we're all stinging, cuz we're all hurting on Tuesday. We're all kind of shocked, shell-shocked by what this Detroit Lion team performed and what they did, getting canceled off of ESPN. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, hockey news broke. Steve Yzerman made news when he came out and resigned as the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And speculation started, and it was rampant. And everybody's like, wait a minute, he's going to stay on as an advisor for a year. Ken Holland is 64 years old. His contract will be expiring around the same time. Great news in that the stars are aligning. There's no way for me to conceptualize this based on what was said, what was reported. Bro, let's fucking celebrate. Steve Yzerman's going to be the general manager of the fucking Red Wings, baby. That's going to happen. And finally, God damn it, some good news. Steve Yzerman is going to be the hope for the literally, it's not Al Avila. It's not Bob Quinn. It's not Ed Stefanski. Steve Yzerman will walk into that building with the expectation and 90% approval rating that he's going to hoist a cup as whether he's the president of player development, general manager. Once he's hired, popping off, baby. We're going to pop the bottle. It's going to be a good time.
Do you think Steve Yzerman coming in equals immediate success?
Parade, baby. We're planning DSP
wow.
Steve Yzerman parade.
Oh, wow.
You and I should go do it, baby. We got to find out when his airplane lands, get the signs, finally welcome home. We'll play it.
Get the microphones in front of them.
We got it. I will stand there with the speaker. I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. We'll stand there. He'll be walking by like, what the hell are these guys doing? We'll wear our shirts proudly, and we'll blare it, and we'll get it riled up. We need this. We need Steve Yzerman. I don't care if he has no intention. Make him have an intention. Get your ass back to LCA and run the Red Wings. We need something in Detroit sports. It's like literally the sports crack that we all needed. It's it. He's coming home. He's coming home. He's running the Red Wings, and he's bringing a cup here. There's at least a cup final. At least we'll look like an organization. And what better way to cherry pick it? Look, we'll even give Ken Holland credit for Zadina and sucking so bad and bringing Veleno and everybody else. Just have Steve Yzerman run the Red Wings. Please, please let this be true.
Okay, so just get everybody caught up on what John is talking about. On Tuesday, Steve Yzerman announced that he's moving to an advisory role for his final season of his contract with Tampa Bay, which has all of Detroit hyped because we all believe that he is going to do the advisory role after he's already stepped down as GM, going to be the advisor for the year, and then from there, he's going to come back to Detroit. And the thought process is he will then take over for Ken Holland, who will move into assuming a president's role up at the very, very top of the organization. So I'm excited about it. I was excited when the news broke. Let's just start there. We're still a year away. And I don't think Steve Yzerman coming into the Detroit Red Wings, and I hate to be the cold water on this love fest here, I don't think Steve Yzerman coming in immediately makes us a cup contender. There's still a lot of work to be done. However, what I will say, Steve Yzerman has proven in Tampa Bay that he is great at evaluating talent. He is awesome at playing the contract game. He is a guy that, as long as the owner backs him, he will do what is absolutely best for that team. I go back and I point to the Jonathan Drouin situation. There it is. There it is. Let that serenade and just wash all over you. The way he handled
the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday.
Stick the podcasting. The way he handled the whole Jonathan Drouin situation was immaculate. Jonathan Drouin wanted to be traded. Originally he wanted more ice time, and he wanted to be up with the team. And Steve Yzerman was like, "No, you got more to work on. You need to get better defensively." And Jonathan Drouin said, "Trade me. I want out." And he said, "No, you're just going to stay there. We're not trading you." And other teams were coming at Steve Yzerman saying, "Hey, we'll give you this. We'll give you that." And he's like, "No, he's not going to get traded. Like, we're keeping him. He's going to do what we tell him to do." Jonathan Drouin left the team, then came back to the team, went to the minor league system, actually put some of the work in. Next thing you know, he got called up, and he's one of their more valuable players. So he can play hardball. He's a very smart mind. I think if he does come to the Red Wings, it makes them a much better team. I don't think it means immediate success, especially a Stanley Cup. But if you want to go and you want to wait for his jet to land, I will sit there and I will wait for you. And the moment I see that man, I will probably faint. He is like the one guy. Like they tell you never meet your heroes, right? Because you will just be depressed and you'll feel awful about your life and feel awful about yourself. He is the one guy. Like, he is the one athlete that I look up to more than anybody else. And that sounds stupid and that sounds dumb and childish from a grown-ass man. And I am a grown-ass man. But he is the one guy that I hold above all the rest. And he's the one guy that if I ever met him, I would probably pass out. And I would just faint on the floor.
Oh, you're gay.
Probably. Possibly.
What a dummy.
Yep.
Could you imagine,
I hate you.
No, I don't want to burst your bubble, but could you imagine, he's just having a bad day, and he's really a great guy, but you just catch him on the day where, his wife tears him a new asshole, and his daughter racks up a huge tuition bill at Michigan, and, he looks at the credit card bill, and he's like, "Girl, you spent $8,400 in Tampa Bay. What are you doing? I told you. Stop going to all these clubs." And you roll up on him, and he's just like...
douchebag.
It just blows you off, and you're like, man. Oh, man.
I like how you like to play with the drops.
It's fun. You got to have a little mix in there. I think he'd be a good guy. We'll figure it out. Like I said, the goal would be if he gets hired by the Red Wings, we'll be there. Try to get in the mix. I think by then, I think we kind of neglected the Red Wings in terms of trying to get media, but I think that is the least info that I have in terms of anybody to contact. So I got to step up and get some info regarding the Red Wings. But hey, man,
talk to somebody over at the Tigers. They're all connected. Yeah, it all goes through Olympia.
Exactly.
We'll get it figured out.
And I was told a name, I just didn't write it down because the Red Wings are really not on my personal radar, but I want them to be because I'm a fan of all the sports here in Detroit. And like I said, being a all-world podcaster and trying to report on sports is fun. It's a good time, and definitely don't want to neglect any of the teams here. Great podcast. I had a really lot of fun this one.
This was good.
It was really good.
I liked how we started setting the village on fire, burning it all down. And then in the end, we sat there. We had a good laugh.
Yeah, good laugh.
You played some music. You
played
sang.
Some music. I sang. A prominent.
Oh, by the way, let me lift the curtain here. The other day, I'm sitting at work and I get a couple tweets that come through, and it's this guy across from me singing Ed Sheeran to me. So hey, thanks, buddy.
It seemed like you had a good time with it. Seemed like everything was perfect.
My wife had a great time.
That's all you can do, man. It was great. I was like, oh, good for you.
Hey, did you see that Anne-Marie?
Yeah, tweeted you. Yeah, I'm like,
that was
yes,
awesome.
500,000 followers. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, you're catching on to what you're supposed to be doing. Attention.
She did a great job. She was probably the highlight of that show. Ed Sheeran is great. I would go and I would watch. I would sit there for 2.5 hours just to listen to Ed Sheeran talk to me.
Yeah.
Because he would be a great stand-up comedian.
Great.
He's awesome, right? He's a really good performer. I was less into his concert. My wife was very into his concert. I was more into Anne-Marie. I thought she did a great job. She really did a good job connecting with the crowd.
How's the sound over there at Ford Field?
It's all right.
Was that Ford Field, right?
Yeah.
Bigger stage, bigger audience.
Yeah.
I kind of find that the sound at LCA is crisp. It's like they've done it technologically in terms of the concerts I saw there. I was like, wow, sounds good there.
Yeah. So you have to remember this concert was all English or Irish groups or singers. So a little bit of a accent which I love the English accent. Like, I'll give you War and Peace. Just read War and Peace to me with your English accent. It's hot. I love it. I think it's great. Like, even when a dude sings, right? You get that drop? I might be gay. Go ahead, play that. Even if a dude sings it, it's cool, or reads it to me. It's cool. I think it's hot.
You're not that much of a loser, are you?
Right, exactly. I am, though.
Programming note, Lions game this Sunday is at 4, but get your day started off right. 10 a.m. WDFN tailgate this Sunday, 10 a.m. iHeart app, 11:30 a.m. WDFN. Adam and Ryan set the scene. They'll have great guests, good insight. They'll help take you around the league, and they'll have great fantasy advice for you. So WDFN tailgate, 10 a.m. WDFN iHeart app. Don't miss it. Adam did a great job. Adam and Ryan both did. It was enjoyable, and I got definitely some good knowledge on that first episode. Keep it going, bro.
Thanks, Ben. We got Dave Burkett on this week, so
Hey-o.
already got that nailed down. We were struggling. We were trying to get guys locked up last week, and it took a little bit, but we got done, so it was cool. Chris Burke is the man.
Chris Burke.
But yeah,
Dave
this week
Burkett
we got
this
Dave
week.
Burkett. Yep.
And get in the know. WDFN tailgate. Get your day started right with Adam Straczynski, Ryan Elke. See everybody next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. You make this fun to do every single week. For the Jock, Adam Straczynski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. You've just listened to, and you've just had the experience of listening to Doc and Jock.
I hate you, Lions.
This was locker room talk.
Second deck.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.